Hi, I'm Alicia and welcome to my channel Papercraft Secrets. Today I'm sharing a set of 5 cards that I made with Uniquely Creative's Choose Your Own Adventure collection. These are mail cards and they are birthday cards. So sometimes we find birthday cards for males very difficult to create. These ones came together quite easily because this collection is very, very good. Let me take you through the process I went through to make the cards. I've already created layout with these papers and collections, and this is what I've got left. So I wanted to show you what I had left in the collection before I started creating the cards. So this is the papers. It's the Uniquely Creative Choose Your Own Adventure 12 by 12 collection pack. It's an Australian named company, and this collection in particular is fabulous for creating mail layouts and mail cards. These were the creative cuts that I had left over. You can see that there was lots and lots of creative cuts left over from the double layout that I created. I had a few little tags left over from the layout, and I had a lot of these little bits and pieces that I cut from one of the 12 by 12 sheets. So there's lots of material here that I can use to create my cards. I also received this die and this little template, which I'm hoping to use on the cards as well. This was the papers that were left over. I'll just show you. That was this cut apart sheet here. There was this page here. So you can see I still had lots and lots of things that I could cut apart and make more of. I had a whole nother page of these tags, which are awesome. I love those tags. I had this lovely star paper and the feathers. I had 2 of those. I've got this blue spotty page and this mixed media page. I've got 2 of those. I've got this diagonal page and a leaf page, 2 of those. A grid page, and that was the page where I cut all those little bits from. So there's like a whole nother page of those. I like this page, and it's got the spots. I've got 1.5 bits of that. I've got another bit of that page. I've got these sentiments here that go with the die. So you can see, like, to be honest, I could probably make another 100 cards with these papers that I've got left. I've also got that little chipboard sheet, and I found these Uniquely Creative cards and envelopes, which I thought I would use for my cards. Now I've only got 5 left from this packet. I've already used 5 in a previous video. So today I'm going to make 5 mail cards using the leftovers from my kit and see what I can come up with. And that's the envelopes that go with them. So let's get started, and I'll take you step by step through my process of how I created the cards and what materials that I used. Let's start with the cards that I used here, and it's a pack of 10 13.5 centimeters by 13.5 centimeters square cards, and they're made from 300 GSM cardstock. So they are Uniquely Creative's own brand of cards and envelopes, and that is what we're going to use today. Alright, so let's sit back now and go through the process. We're going to start with this page here, which is called No Limits. And we're going to cut some paper to fit this card. It's going to have a slight white border around the edge. So I'm just getting the measurement exactly right so that I can have a nice white border around the edge of my card. It's one of those sort of a little bit in between measurements, so it's actually 5 3/16. And that gives us that lovely white edge. Not too thick, not too thin, just a nice border. Now this is going to be the background for all of our cards. We're going to use the same background for each of them, so we are going to need 5 of these squares. That's 4. You can get 4 from one sheet of 12 by 12. So the measurement is 5 3/16 by 5 3/16. Now you're going to need 10 pieces altogether, 5 for the front base of the card and 5 for the inside of the card. I'm going to use this star paper for the inside of the card. So I will need 5 pieces from the star paper and I'll need 5 pieces from the blue mixed media paper. Now if you didn't want to use those, you could use any of the papers that you like in the kit. So here we have our 5 blue and our 5 star papers all ready to go. So we're moving on to our next step now. Check what ink pads you've got. I've got some of these old Kaisercraft ones that I'm going to use today. I'm thinking about inking the edges of these papers to add a little bit of colour to each of the pages, and it matches in with the colours in the collection. So I'm going to go through and ink all of these pages. I do like the inked edge look. Now I'm going to glue each of those pages onto the cards so that we can make a start with each one of our cards. So I'm just using some glue and I'm centering that page in the middle of the card and smoothing it out with my fingers. I'm going to glue on each one of the front cover pages onto the cards, and then I'm going to glue the star pages onto the inside of each of the cards. We're moving on to the next section of our tutorial now. We've got our base cards finished. I'm thinking about using my slimline dies to decorate my cards. And the papers in the kit were all very busy. I wanted something very plain for my zigzag dies. I decided on a piece of cardstock that was sort of a light green cardstock that I just found in my stash. I used some tape to tape these dies down onto my cardstock to hold them in position because they're very, very long dies, and I actually had to run them through my die cutting machine twice because they were too long for my particular die cutting machine. So I needed to keep them securely in the same position so that I could then move that down and run that through again. And that worked quite well. So I did that a few times. I think I did that 3 times. And if you have any trouble, just run it through again. If your die cutting machine is only a small one like mine, just move the plate down a little bit and just run it through again. If you've got them all taped down nicely, you won't have any trouble, you won't get any movement. My plan was to use these dies possibly vertically down the front of the card, and then I also wanted to use this little stencil as well to, have a bit of a mixed media feel. I'm just using an old ink pad here which actually fell apart, so I just had to pick it up with my fingers and ink it. But this actually, it was very effective. I really liked the little stencil that Uniquely Creative supplied to me, and I thought it was a really good size for a card and very easy to use as well. So I went through on each card and I chose 1 or 2 of the die cuts to decorate the card, and I inked through the stencil, and I chose a red ink to contrast with the blue and the green that I was using on the cards, and there's a little bit of red in the kit so that I felt that colour would complement the papers. And each card is slightly different. They're not exactly the same. If I got a little bit of ink there, I just covered that up with one of those and you never even knew it was there. And the last one. All done. I took a moment to clean up now because I managed to get red ink all over my fingers, and I used a baby wipe to quickly and easily clean my stencil. And it's a very tough stencil, so it didn't none of the little bits poked up, none of the bits of plastic that poked up or anything. It was very, very strong, perfect to use again type of stencil. So now I just needed to get some scissors and just to trim off those excess little bits of die cutting. And I just trimmed those off with scissors, but of course you could measure and trim them before you pasted them on if you wanted to. It's a very effective die. I think it's a fabulous die. I really do like that zigzag pattern anyway. And perfect for masculine cards. So now this was the fun part for me. I love to layer embellishments and things like that. So I'm sorting through the creative cuts that I had left over, and I'm thinking about what might be able to go on my cards. I'm wanting to create a cluster of embellishments, and so I'm picking and choosing some things that I think will work. I'm sort of lending towards happy birthday cards because they are useful. It's always great to have some happy birthday cards in the cupboard for when somebody gets invited to a birthday party, or when you just need a card for a family member or a friend. And because mail cards can be so tricky to make, it is nice to have a mail card stash. Now, what I liked about these creative cuts was the variety of their shapes. So you can see that I've used some circles and some rectangular strips and some labels. And just putting those few things on, already you can see how it's going to take shape. I really did like the 12 by 12 sheet of tags, and there was some left over from the first sheet that I cut. So I decided that I could use some of these tags again on my cards. Even though I used so many on my layout, I do really like them, so I thought I'll add some to my cards as well. I find that the tags on a card give a good base, something to cluster everything onto. There was a couple of skinny tags, so I doubled them up. As I was looking at my design for my card, I realized that I maybe be changing the card so that the die cutting and the stencil was going horizontal might look better. I'm just showing you that I emptied out all of those tags. So I finished those tags on these cards. So these cards are a little bit of a stash buster set of cards. You can most certainly use up lots of little bits and pieces by creating cards like this. I'm going to layer them on a little bit of cardboard, but I'm not going to layer them very thickly because I do want them to fit into an envelope, because I am going to be using these as a birthday card in real life. So I'm only going to be using 1 or 2 layers of cardboard on each card so that they will still fit into an envelope easily. Even though I do love to create chunky cards and layouts, these ones I am going to be very strict with myself and keep them fairly flat. Even some chipboard scraps can be used instead of recycled cardboard. Alright, so I'm going to begin with the tag. I definitely want that to be a little bit raised from the background of the card. So I'm going to start with putting a piece of cardboard, or you could use some double-sided tape, some mounting tape, on the back of each of my tags, that I'm not gluing them down yet because I'm not sure exactly where they will go. But I'm just getting them ready to glue down. I'm going to cut some twine for each of the tags, and I will tie that into a bow. I generally cut my twine to 15 inches. I find that is a good length for creating a bow. It's plenty there, and you can trim a little bit off if you need to at the end. I take it and I fold it in half. I thread it through the tag hole, and then I thread it back through the twine and tie it into a bow. Now, if you want to trim your edges a little bit, you can, but you don't have to. I'm going to go through now and tie all of my tags into little bows. It just adds a little bit of texture to the card and a bit of interest. Beautiful. Now these cards were starting to get a little bit higgledy-piggledy. All the bits and pieces were going everywhere. I was feeling like it's time to start gluing this stuff down. So I started with the tag because I'm happy that they're what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to glue those tags down in their spots now so that I can start building my card. See all of the little bits that were just getting everywhere? It was getting out of control, so many bits and pieces. So we're going to create a bit of order now and get it all under control. So at this point, I actually took a little break from these cards, and I went away and I came back. Sometimes you need to just leave the table for a little bit because I was kind of a bit unsure. How many more layers would I add in? Was it going to be enough? Was I going to achieve the look that I was after? So I took a little break and came back, and I do find that that helps sometimes when you're a little bit stuck on something. It's nice to just take a break and come back with some fresh eyes. And when I did come back, I felt like it was time to glue some of these things down. I wanted to have my happy birthday sentiment a little bit elevated from the rest of the elements on the card, so I decided to mount my sentiments on cardboard. Remember, I said I was just using cardboard very sparingly. So far I've only used it on the tag and I'm only using it on the sentiment. I decided to add in this go, go, go cutout here. I thought that was a nice design. And I also decided to use the large happy birthday words. I was considering leaving those and doing for something else, but I thought no, that would really look nice on this card, and then every card would be a birthday card, which was what I was after. So there was quite a little bit of fiddling around with the elements and balancing everything out, trying to get everything looking how I wanted it to look. And I guess this is the time where you just need to relax, not stress about how the end result is, but just enjoy the process of layering bits and pieces on top of other bits and pieces. It is actually really quite therapeutic. So I decided to glue down my sentiments onto the layer that they were going to be glued onto. Bit by bit, I am building the cards, gluing little bits down as I go so that I'm not gluing everything down at once because I'm not exactly sure of where I want everything. So I'm just gluing it down as I feel that, yep, that's the right spot for that. And I do love this happy birthday. I love that there are a lot of happy birthday sentiments in this collection because let's face it, it's probably the most common card that we send to people and probably make as well. So, you know, it's really good to have a paper collection that provides you with lots of happy birthday sentiments to add onto your cards. And there's no right or wrong way to build up these cards with all these little layers and bits and pieces. What I kept trying to do was to use a variety of shapes. So I felt that this card needed a circle. So I found a circle and decided to cut that out. So that it had a circular element in the design. It's just cutting off the little white bits that I left on in the first cut. Circles can be tricky to cut out. So now I'm happy with this card because it's got a rectangular strip, it's got the round bit, the scalloped circle, it's got the happy birthday font, it's going to have this little round thingy compass, and it's going to have this little scalloped edge. So there's lots of different shaped elements on this card, and that's what makes it interesting. Plus, you know, you've got your variety of colours, and it all sort of ties in nicely together. So that one's finished. So let's move on to another one now. We're making progress. This one's got some numbers, which is an interesting shaped piece. I'm going to add a circle to this one as well because I felt that the circle element really helped that previous card. So I'm just cutting that one out, and I'm going to stick that in there somewhere. I like the word hey on it. I like the font. Hey, happy birthday. It's very casual. These cards are perfect, going to be perfect for, you know, 8-year-old birthday parties. You know, any sort of 5 to, well, I mean, you could give it to a fully grown male as well, but they've got that little boy look about them, I think. Anyway, I'm going to be keeping them in my stash for birthday parties that my boys get invited to go to. This stop, it's very, very bright, isn't it? It's very masculine. Again, it's a different shape, so it's, what is it, octagon shape, so that's something different, adds interest to the card. Stop, happy birthday. Important announcement. Plus little boys like stop signs and all things, cars and whatever, don't they? So there we go, that card's balanced out quite nicely. 3 down, 2 to go. I will be embellishing with those golden stars at the end, but I'll finish these last 2 cards first and then I'll do the stars all together. So I'm just building up this card now with all of its little bits and tags and little bits and pieces. It's amazing that all of these tiny little bits of paper can actually come together and create a card. This card actually is one of my favorites out of the collection. I like the happy birthday sentiment. I was seeing whether I could fit a feather in, but I decided not to use the feather. I like this @ symbol, so I thought I might put that in because that's another circular shape, but it's also got a letter in it, so it gives a nice extra focal point to the card. We're almost done now. I'm on to my last card. This has got the Go Go Go, which is a really good shape die cut. And then we're going to just pop that little cluster on top with our happy birthday. And now I'm going to use the golden stars that came in a kit, and these really are the perfect embellishment for this collection because stars are a great boy embellishment and the gold sort of adds a little bit of sparkle to the card. I used the rule of thirds or the rule of 3 to position my stars in a triangle design around my cluster. You could use whatever you wanted. You could put as many stars on it as you wanted to. I like to put the stars on often on a join. So like the join of one piece of paper onto another piece of paper, or the stencil onto the paper, just so that it's sort of, I don't know why I do that, but I just like that look. Also put a few on the little tags next to the sentiments, and they just add that final finishing touch to the cards. Beautiful. Last step now, I wanted to have a piece of plain cardstock or paper inside the card so that we could write on it easily with a message. So I'm just cutting this grid paper, and I cut it at 4 by 4. Yep, 4 by 4 inches. And that's just a nice size. We'll still see the stars around the outside of the card, but we'll have a nice space where we can write our birthday message on the inside. So we need 5 of those. And we will ink these just like we inked all of the other papers so that it all ties in. And now we are going to glue each of those into the center of the inside of our cards. And now our cards are finished. Would you like to take a close look? This is my favorite. Inside the card, you can see the layers on the side. And this card, I love the happy birthday sentiment on this card. You can see the thickness of the layers. There's not a lot of thickness there, but there's enough to create interest. And that's the inside of the card. Plenty of room to write a message. This one here. That little bit's annoying me. Might need to cut that off. This one's pretty simple. This one here with the go, go, go. I do love that stencil, and I do love those die cuts. They really are a great addition to the card. It creates a good background. This one's got lots of nice bits and pieces on it. What a beautiful collection. Tracy at Uniquely Creative is really nailing her collections. If you haven't been over to Uniquely Creative, you need to have a look at their amazing kits. They have card making kits, they have scrapbooking kits, they have stamping kits, anything you could want, and they do a monthly kit. So you can be a subscriber and you can make sure that you get all of their beautiful collections. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Let me know in the comments section below what you thought of the video, and please make sure you have a lovely crafty day.